This week in games, PlayStation shuts down Bluepoint Studio, Xbox has major leadership changes, and you gotta wonder, are games dead? This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 288. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
How's it going? I usually have something interesting to... I fucked up.
Yeah? Do you want to restart now?
No.
No? Okay. All right, we're just going to keep it with that one. Okay.
You get the realness on this podcast.
You're right. Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah, we don't show people enough authenticity, especially when we yell and scream at each other about High Guard for 40 minutes.
It's only like 20 minutes.
It was a long time, Connor. It was a long time. There's a breakout video on the channel now.
No. Yelling, 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we were yelling for that long, you know.
Over-exaggeration.
We're passionate. We're passionate players. It's good to see you, buddy. No, genuine. I'm being genuine.
I know you are, but I've just been here...
Well, I was going to get into it, but now you've made it a moment. Now you've made this awkward. Shake my goddamn hand.
See, now you're not doing it because you respect me. You're doing it because you demand from me.
I despise
It's just weird.
everything
We've been here since, like, 1, in general interacting. We've been doing the podcast since, like, 3.
Well, yes, and I was going to continue and say, hey, Connor, since I had to pick up more hours at work, I don't see you that often. We're not working opposite schedules, but it's close to opposite schedules, especially with how your schedule affects your sleep schedule and how fucked your sleep schedule is anyways. So I just don't see you that. I don't see you as often as I usually do, buddy. And I was lamenting last night. I was like, hey, this is like the first time I've seen Connor and had like a genuine conversation with him for pretty much the whole week is what I was thinking last night. But now you've turned it into a goddamn moment.
Well, you're applying, like, weight to this thing that wasn't there originally, and now all of a sudden I'm the bad guy.
What do you mean there originally?
I didn't recognize it. I didn't know you were going this angle.
Well, maybe if you learn to roll with it, you know, in improv, which is what this is, they tell you to roll with it.
Well, see,
yes, and
I am rolling with it by rejecting it. Handshakes
not
aren't
how that
always
works!
accepted. They're not always accepted, Tavin.
I
Just
hate
because
you
you
with
put your
everything
hand
in my
out
soul.
doesn't mean you get it.
I'm reminded of a moment, and the people don't know about this. I'm reminded of a moment when we were playing Overwatch, right? And, you know, I like my little sexual innuendo jokes. You know, I enjoy them, right? And there's a moment where you say something, Phil says something, and then I made a joke about it. You know, it was like, oh, I'd really like you to come in my ass or something. I don't know. Something gay. Something gay, right? Because I like doing that to you. You know? I did it to you this morning when you woke up. Anyways, and I just remember I said the joke, and there was a hefty pause. And then I feel like maybe this is just my head implanting details for fun, but I feel like there was a heavy just, God, I can't fucking stand him.
Yes, that's what I did. I remember that now. I can't fucking stand you.
I was chuckling about that this morning. It was just so genuine. I was like, oh, man, this is my best friend.
Because I was tired. I was tired of you. Like I am now.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Two Penny Gamescast, where each week we dive deep into the nerdy news you need to know in order to elevate the conversation around games. We each come to you with 2 topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and we give you our 2 cents on them. You can watch this show live every Monday afternoon at twitch.tv/2pennygames, where you can put in your own 2 cents live as we record, or if you can't catch us live, watch the episode on youtube.com/@2pennygames or listen on mainstream podcast services of your choice every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Central Time. Of course, our goal here is to always elevate the conversation. So if you have your own 2 cents on a topic we cover, don't cover, or just something about gaming culture you wish was better, drop those thoughts down into the comments below, and we will be back next week to reply to your own 2 pennies, much like ITT Games 4456 commented, we need portable ops as it still needs a port off of PSP. And this is what I was saying, man. Master Collection Volume 1 had 5 games in it. And even if you don't want to count Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2, that's 3 plus some extra bonus games, right? In Master Collection Volume 2, I'm glad that we have Metal Gear Solid 4 and that it's finally off the PlayStation 3. I'm sure that took a lot of work and is the main reason as to why we only get the 2 games. But getting only MGS4 and only Peace Walker, plus like a little bonus Ghost Babel, like is neat, but it's just inherently a lesser valuable product, right?
It's the same company when they made the collection. Volume 1, it's just a bunch of games you have to download individually and then play all for the same price tag.
I mean, like, there is a pro and con. Like, I do like that I don't have to install all of these games, but they're smaller games because they're PS2 games.
Yeah.
Like, All three of these games fit on the masterful PlayStation Vita, And you could play them on the PlayStation Vita over a decade ago, Connor. 15 years ago, nearly.
Just trying to make every effort of the fact, take advantage of the fact that you have it out with
This
you.
little guy is so good, guys. We talked about it on the piggyback. This guy is so good. But no, inherently, I just don't see how this is an equivalent level of value for the same price. Because we have one bonus game as opposed to two bonus games. I haven't seen anything about bonus features, which was implemented in Collection Volume 1. And we just have two games. Now, you could say MGS4 is the largest of the four original games. Okay, point. And Peace Walker is inherently bigger than all of them combined. Okay, another point. But Peace Walker's a PSP game, so it's just going to require less work. I'm sure they are just using the Bluepoint remaster like they did with Metal Gear 1 through 3. So how much work was it really? And there were games on PC that we could have grabbed for. Ghost Babel, I said it in the last video, is like a tertiary selection. We could have done Metal Gear Rising Revengeance. We could have done Portable Ops. We could have done Acid.
See, all of those make sense. This might be the echoes of the old Konami. The guard's still in place.
That's a little extreme.
Causing some problems.
That's a little extreme. They're doing a lot of games.
But the other side of this is that this is Metal Gear Solid 4 being brought to the console that, notably it's hard to get games off the PS3. That was only what it was on.
Right.
I see Konami is like, well, we gave them this game that we otherwise would have charged full price for on its own, so these guys should just take it and it.
Undoubtedly, Guns of the Patriots did require work, so I don't want to take that away. And so there is that. It probably, getting Guns of the Patriots off probably required more work than was put into Collection Volume 1
as a whole,
right? So, I can understand that perspective, but it just kind of feels shittier, I just feel like it's lesser quality because of the content selection. You know what I mean?
It's good you say that because it is.
Right.
Give it back.
That's it? That's all I got? Anyways, I'm going to talk... Oh, that's the Vita. You can see, this is the beauty of it. I thought the Vita was my phone. It's so small, it fits in your pocket. What happened to these days? I'm so nostalgic.
A black tablet versus red tablet. I feel like with my phone.
On our crazy God of War remake theory, praise Harrison6125 says...
Daedric, Lord of the Hunt.
Good for you. You put that together. I'm so glad.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to do God of War like what they did with the Spyro Trilogy remake, and also like the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, stuff like that. Yeah, that's probably realistically what they're going to do, but it would be so much more interesting and so much more creative if they chose, you know what I mean, to do sort of what I pitched in that video of this is one very long game. It's also worth noting that a leaked conversation, or at least a conversation that was recorded without Christopher Judge knowing, Christopher Judge being the voice actor for the new Kratos, who is not involved in the trilogy remakes, did mention that there is going to be a new combat system created for these remakes. So, I agree. Most likely it is going to be like a Spyro Reignited or a Crash Insane Trilogy remake, where it's all right, select your game. They're all unified in art style and unified in controls, right? But I think it'd be more interesting because it is more of a storytelling franchise than Crash and Spyro are. That we do something cool and it's you press play and it starts with God of War 1 and credits do not roll until the end of God of War 3. I think that would be more interesting. And then they just reset your power scale throughout the game.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they will, maybe they won't. We don't know. We're so early in development that who knows, I also thought, Connor, something that I didn't think of during that, because DMC5, you're a Devil May Cry fan. DMC5, you control the camera, right?
Yeah, in 5.
In what?
In 5, yeah.
Okay. And so I thought, we could do that as well, where we give players control of the camera, and it's still a 3D player-controlled camera, much like God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, but instead of doing the direct over-the-shoulder, it is still pulled back, so you can still get those cool, stylish moves, juggling enemies in the air, jumping, all of that.
Maybe have a bit more skill. Those God of War games, those old ones, pretty easy.
Somebody hasn't played God of War.
I thought that wasn't true, but what do I know?
No, I would not say that's true. There's definitely moments, especially depending on the difficulty you play on, where it gets hard.
As long as they don't just try to make it like the new God of War gameplay, still keep in what the old one is. But the issue is they're remaking it. What does remake mean nowadays?
Yeah.
It can mean a lot.
The way that they're saying it feels hefty.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imagine that there's going to be some changes and we're going to have to be okay with it. But the way they're also saying it and bringing in TC, the old voice actor, means that they are still treating it with respect. So I imagine they're hearing what fans want. I imagine they know what fans want and are just going to revive that old feeling that we got from back in the day. Now, I think if you just stop at the same level of remake that Crash and Spyro are, I think fans will be very happy with that. But it's kind of boring.
Well, those people got to take what they get,
Sure.
God of War is going to keep on coming, one way or the other.
You know who else is going to keep on coming, Connor? Us, with new episodes. So make sure you like and subscribe and follow for more, and drop your own 2 cents into the conversation down below. Connor, I want to move on to our first topic of the day. This is our first penny of the day. Xbox replaces CEO Phil Spencer with pro AI executive while Xbox president resigns. This is, of course, we are pulling from our Substack, so it is written by our very own Connor Elliott, link in the description down below. Friday saw a major shift in the gaming industry with the announcement that Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer will retire after 38 years with the company, alongside Xbox president Sarah Bonds resigning, despite expectations she'd replace Spencer's position. That honor, instead, will go to current president of Microsoft's Core AI, Asha Shamara, while Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty is promoted to Chief Content Officer. A message from Spencer partly reads, quote, "Last fall, I shared with Satya," that is Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, "that I was thinking about stepping back and starting the next chapter of my life. From that moment, we aligned on approaching this transition with intention, ensuring stability, and strengthening the foundation we've built." Okay. Xbox has always been more than a business. It's a vibrant community of players, creators, and teams who care deeply about what we build and how we build it. And it deserves a thoughtful, deliberate plan for the road ahead. Today marks an exciting new chapter for Microsoft Gaming as Asha Shamara steps into the role of CEO, and I want to be the first to welcome her to this incredible team. Working with her over the past several months has given me tremendous confidence. She brings genuine curiosity, clarity, and a deep commitment to understanding players, creators, and the decisions that shape our future. We know this is an important moment for our fans, partners, and team, and we're committed to getting it right. I'll remain in an advisory role through the summer to support a smooth handoff. An accompanying message from Shamara declares her current intent as CEO of Microsoft Gaming is to, quote, "understand what makes this work and protect it," before outlining 3 commitments to achieve this goal, starting with great games. Quote, "Everything begins here. We must have great games beloved by players before we do anything. Unforgettable characters, stories that make us feel, innovative gameplay, and creative excellence. We will empower our studios, invest in iconic franchises, and back bold new ideas. We will take risks. We will enter new categories and markets where we can add real value, grounded in what players care about most." Quote, "I promoted Matt Booty in honor of this commitment. He understands the craft and the challenges of building great games." He understands the craft and the challenges of building great games, has led teams that deliver award-winning work, and has earned the trust of game developers across the industry. Second, the return of Xbox. We will recommit to our core Xbox fans and players, those who have invested with us for the past 25 years, and to the developers who build the expansive universes and experiences that are embraced by players across the world. Quote, "We will celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with console, let me take that back. We will celebrate our roots with a new fuck me in the ass. We will celebrate our roots with a renewed commitment to Xbox, starting with console, which has shaped who we are. It connects us to the players and fans who invest in Xbox, and to the developers who build ambitious experiences for it. Gaming now lives across devices, not within the limits of any single piece of hardware. As we expand across PC, mobile, and cloud, Xbox should feel seamless, instant, and worthy of the communities we serve. We will break down barriers so developers can build once and reach players everywhere without compromise. Third, future of play. We are witnessing the reinvention of play. To meet the moment, we will invent new business models and new ways to play by leaning into what we already have: iconic teams, characters, and worlds that people love. But we will not treat those worlds as static IP to milk and monetize. We will build a shared platform and tools that empower developers and players to create and share their own stories. As I'm sorry, it's a lot of talking. We're going to take a break before more reading. As monetization and AI evolve and influence this future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop. She said the words. It's interesting. Games are and always will be art, crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. So let's stop there, all right? Because it's a lot of news, all right? And it's complicated. So here's what you need to know. Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Gaming, has retired. President of Xbox, Sarah Bond, has left the company as well. Resigned. We don't know why.
Willfully.
We'll find out. Willfully, we think. Matt Booty promoted to head content creator chief. I do like that move. And then now, Asha Sharma,
I believe.
Yeah, a Microsoft Core AI CEO, has stepped into the role as head of Microsoft Gaming division.
This is not a good news story, mainly because
it's not, man. It feels like the end. Like to be extreme here and to be on the pessimist side of things. This feels like the death of video games. Is what it feels like when the news dropped. I was like, oh, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is something so dangerous to the craft of making video games that it could take the entire industry down.
To specify, it's not that Phil Spencer was so amazing and great that it's all going because he's gone now, or Sarah Bond, or anything like that. It's the fact that they're putting somebody who seems so AI forward that she's the head of Xbox moving forward. It's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Now, to go into the final paragraph that was read, she says that it's soulless AI slop is what they're not going to do.
She said the words.
Now that's intentional. Is what I believe. This is all, of course, what I believe. We only have to infer things because she knows what gamers are going to be thinking of. We don't want AI to take over this industry, and it seems like that's what you're going to be doing because of the role that she was occupying just a second ago, just a week before. And so it's easy to say AI slop as a way to say, like, see, I'm like you guys. I'm with you. I'm not that into AI to where I just think AI for the sake of AI is good.
And even past that, her comments of focusing on Xbox as a brand, bringing games forward, creative characters, all of those are great things. She's saying the right things. But here's the thing. Xbox for the last 3 to 5 years has been dragged through the mud for what they've been saying and not following up on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just what Xbox as a brand has been, is them saying they care about creators, they care about gamers, they care about great games, and then not following up on that statement. Like again and again and again. I wasn't born yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that script writers exist. So, I don't believe you, Sharma, that you believe in Xbox as a brand like we want you to.
Well,
I don't believe that you are not going to inject AI as a technology into your business models.
To focus on that, because specifically the AI slot part, Satya Nadella has in the past, I can't remember what the conference was. I think it was maybe last year. He was talking about how he wants to change. He doesn't want things to be AI slop. He wants to turn that phrase around. And so he's this woman's boss.
Yeah.
And when they're saying something like this, but he just wants to stop, take away the term of AI slop, but not stop with AI, it's just kind of a way to market it, to make it more palatable to the average person, to make it seem like it's much higher art than it actually is.
They're looking to rebrand generative AI because generative AI is inherently theft.
Which he's also supported as well. He's never said that he doesn't want to do generative AI.
I think they're just trying to rebrand it so that it's more stomach, so that we, the people, can stomach it more. But I still think they're going to use generative AI to do the heavy lifting and the work for them, and that's wrong. They shouldn't do that. And so, yeah, I've got a lot of problems with the choice of CEO here. I've got a lot of problems with the fact that she's never worked in games before. Nope. This is someone who was a previous CEO of Instacart and
the vice president of marketing and research, I want to say, I say it later in the article, of Meta.
We'll get there. But
which Meta also heavily uses AI, and she was put into an AI position, core AI product, in charge of Microsoft's core AI product.
All of that to say, here, I'll cut her a little bit of slack here, right? And say this is the woman who took over Instacart after Instacart faced major backlash for basically stealing from their delivery drivers. And she came in and got the numbers to work in a way that saved the brand and kept it thriving, right? So she is the fixer. She is the one who comes in, sees the numbers, fixes the numbers, you know? And that's cool because Xbox has been a sinking ship for the more than a decade now, you know, which is unfortunate because we love Xbox as a brand, or you know, we love Xbox.
The spirit of Xbox,
you know, with a lot of the IPs that they hold, and we hold Xbox dear because of our childhood and nostalgia reasons and all this. We want to see Xbox succeed. And so if she is able to do this, I hope that she is able to do that, is to get Xbox back on track as being a dynamite, stronger brand that it just hasn't been for the last 13 years now. But man, how is that not going to require cutting major studios, like a major amount of your studios?
I need to repeat that last year, Microsoft laid off, like, how much of its workforce
tens
again?
Of thousands. Yeah. Tens of thousands of employees.
And their justification, well, at least the justification that was kind of found out was they had expanded so much with AI and spent so much on it, and they didn't lose money that year, but because they had spent more than they may have wanted to, they wanted to save money on the back end by firing a lot of people, mainly software engineers. And this is what's indicative of what AI does, is that any positive it brings, it's inevitably going to be the main purpose of saving billionaires and the people at the heads of these companies money by cutting the workforce. And it's just, you're going to see it a lot more, but this is probably the most damning, like, inclusion of AI so far, at least the expected inclusion. Because she's yet to put her words to action. We don't know what exactly she's going to do. Maybe she is going to not be, you know, so heavily AI focused, but it's hard to believe she won't be.
I mean, if we are to give her the benefit of the doubt and say she is not going to flood the market with AI slop or push AI into major AAA video games in a harmful way, let's give her the benefit of the doubt and say she's going to do that. Are you signaling for something?
No, stretching.
You're stretching? Interesting. The way she operates is just going to have to require studios getting shut down and more layoffs to come. Say goodbye to all of the studios that give Xbox as a brand artistic credibility. Say goodbye to Double Fine. Say goodbye to Ninja Theory. Say goodbye to Propulsion Games. And honestly, if we're really going to go even further than that, which I believe we will, we're going to start looking at the old Bethesda catalog of studios, right? So now I start looking at, well, did Doom the Dark Age do what it needed to do? And I'm looking at id and going, man, this could be the death of id. I'm looking at Machine Games and going, did Indiana Jones do what it needed to do? I think it did, but will a Wolfenstein 3? I don't see how someone of this someone with this resume, I don't see how she looks at Machine Games and goes, you want to do another Wolfenstein? How much did Wolfenstein 2 sell? How much did Youngblood sell? No, you're not doing that. Cut them. Get rid of them. You know? Like, I just don't see how this doesn't lead to a consolidation on a massive scale, and we just support Xbox's major brands. Halo, Gears, Forza, Fable. If you are not a studio working on Sea of Thieves, I'll leave Sea of Thieves in there as well, and Grounded maybe. If you're not a studio working on those games, get out of here. Or shrink them down, turn them into support studios. Much like what Activision Blizzard was doing with Call of Duty studios back in the day, and just Toys for Bob, get the fuck out of here. Vicarious Visions, get the fuck out of here. You're working on Call of Duty gun skins now to make money for us. It feels like, I mean, it's undeniable that the acquisition of Activision Blizzard is basically the initial domino that led to this decision. And it just feels like instead of inheriting Activision and turning it around and making it a better company, it has just become a parasite that has infected the rest of Xbox and Microsoft.
Yep. And I always refer back to I think back to when that deal was going through, and you mentioned giving her the benefit of the doubt. I gave them the benefit of the doubt, mainly because he was in all the, of course, sexual assault abuse that was going on, and the covered up of the higher ups. So it made it palatable to say, okay, those people are going to be pushed out because of an acquisition, and we can get back to, you know, making good games underneath Activision Blizzard. That hasn't happened.
Nope.
You know, Overwatch came back, but it also had a big stutter step. So it's kind of just making up for lost time, if anything. Rather
we've had one of Call of Duty's worst received games ever. Technically 2, but I don't count Modern Warfare 3 against Microsoft, right? But like we've had with Black Ops 7 was not received well. It was received very poorly, and it got outsold by Battlefield. Like, that shouldn't happen in 2026, or 2025 rather. And so, like, I don't see the vision here in a way that benefits creators and consumers. Like, I think this is just a loss for everyone who isn't Satya Nadella.
Yes. It's mentioned that Sharma has a gamer tag somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's Xbox, but besides that, she doesn't seem to be passionate about video games inherently.
She's just not a gamer.
She's not, and it's fine.
And that you don't need to be, because you're supposed to be a businesswoman.
But you're the head of the creative part of this company now.
Exactly. Which is why I still hold out hope, because we still have Matt Booty, who by all accounts is great, and he is head of creative proceedings, right? So he is going to be the one talking to studios, organizing what they're doing, and this, that, and the third. But, I mean, we've seen over the last couple of years, orders are coming down from high on end. And you got to look at how this was done. You got to look at this was a random drop on a Friday night or on a Friday day. And just all of a sudden, Phil Spencer was out. This new AI person is in. We don't know why, and it's happening Monday. Now, it's worth saying, you just mentioned it, that the news was supposed to drop today, the day of recording, the day that Phil Spencer is resigning, or retiring, rather. And when the news dropped on Friday, it induced a lot of panic. I think if the news dropped today as planned, it would have induced even more panic. The reason they dropped it on Friday is because that news did start to leak, right? And so they wanted to get ahead of it so that they could be the leader of messaging. But they didn't do a good job of that, because we didn't even get Sarah Bond's statement on why she's resigning until today.
In a LinkedIn post. It wasn't an official
it's very sticky and uncomfortable there. So the way it was done, it feels like, and it reminds me of when Sean Layden was suddenly out as president of Sony Interactive USA. And it was suddenly like, oh, he's gone, and now we've got Jim Ryan in here. And then suddenly, but then when Jim Ryan resigned, we had like a 6-month lead up to it to be like, oh, okay, we know he's coming, and we know Herman Holst is going to come in, and the other guy is going to come in and do things. So, that's the way it's supposed to be done. There's supposed to be a bit of a farewell tour with these major CEOs, especially one of Phil Spencer's stature, who has been with the company for so long. I'm going to continue with your article here, Connor. Originally hired at Microsoft as an intern in 1998.
88.
In 1988. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, right?
Originally hired at Microsoft as an intern in 1988, Spencer eventually joined Xbox in 2001 as general manager of Microsoft Game Studios EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, where CEO of Microsoft Satya Nadella would go on to designate Spencer as lead of Xbox, Xbox Live, and creative teams Xbox Music, Xbox Video, and Microsoft Studios in March of 2014. What a different time.
I know, right?
Spencer began his work as CEO of Microsoft Gaming in 2022, but oversaw some of the most important developments in the 21st century, such as the implementation of the subscription service Xbox Game Pass, the release of the Xbox Series X/S, the purchase of multiple game studios, and oversaw 2 multi-billion-dollar acquisitions in the form of ZeniMax and Activision Blizzard, ZeniMax being the Bethesda parent company. Sharma joined Microsoft in 2024 as president of Microsoft's core AI product, with past employment as vice president of product and engineering at Meta and chief operating officer at Instacart and Porch Group. Although having previously worked in marketing at Microsoft, Sharma has no prior experience in the gaming industry. So I want to stop right here. Listen, by no means was Phil Spencer a perfect head of Xbox. By no means. But I do want to give him his flowers, because I do believe that Phil Spencer, at his heart, was for the creatives and was for the gamers. It was the business that kept getting in his way, and he was handed a shit plate from the guy before him. They really fumbled the Xbox One generation. He said it himself. That was the worst generation to lose, and they lost it by a country mile, right? And so he was given a really shit hand to deal with. I think he did a decent job of doing that. There are some missteps along the way that I wish didn't happen, and it just feels like as a overall, the core group of leadership at Xbox was lacking in a lot of ways, right?
And you're right. I think he was a guy who cared about the creative part of games, which is always arguably the most important thing.
And we're leading negative, and that's not where I wanted to go. With the creation of Xbox Game Pass, the launching of the Xbox Series consoles, which I do think have been some of Xbox's best consoles, certainly in terms of power, performance, player accessibility, all of those things. I believe Phil Spencer, or at least Phil Spencer and team, led the charge of accessibility with controllers under Xbox, which is a big deal for me personally. Like, Phil Spencer's done a lot of good work under the Xbox brand. I believe in my heart of hearts that he is a true gamer and is looking out for the best intentions of the gamers and the creatives.
Yes.
It's just he's not a good CEO, I think is the problem.
And that's the thing. I wasn't going to say his tenure at Xbox was fruitless and useless and insignificant.
No, backwards compatibility happened because of Phil Spencer.
Yeah. I think that would have inevitably happened anyway.
That was gone, Connor. It was gone. It was gone. Everybody got rid of it. PlayStation didn't bring it back. You know,
that is true.
Nintendo hasn't really brought it back.
I guess
Xbox is the only brand that brought backwards compatibility back.
Yeah, I guess the only other thing I was going to give him is, as you said, flowers on was the accessibility side of things.
Yeah.
But when you look at his time at Xbox, even with all the positive, you can take, by the way, Game Pass with a grain of salt, because there is differing opinions from game developers themselves about whether that's overall been a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's overall a case-by-case basis.
Yep. There's some success stories and there's some failures because of it.
So I would just say it's not like a success of Phil Spencer's, but it's not a failure at all.
I would say it has cheapened the value of video games.
Yeah, and, that's all to say, which he's a well-meaning guy, clearly. I think he cares about the art of video games, but he, at the same time, oversaw all the bad things Microsoft did.
Yep.
And just, even though he wasn't, he facilitated it. Regardless of whether it's just because he was actually bad and wanted to, mess up the industry for his own profit, which I don't think he did.
I don't believe that.
Or he was just the front man for the big bad guys behind him to do as they please. But in that same character of like, well, you just kind of help them do it.
Right.
As softening the blow. Because that's basically what his role was whenever some bad thing happened at Microsoft.
Yeah.
It was to soften the blow.
Yeah.
It was to do PR for the people that are making the gaming industry worse overall. So it's kind of, I'm not going to, I was, again, before you started saying all the praises, I was going to insult him overall as being like, sorry, buddy, you were useless. Your time in the industry was not even,
those are harsh
worse.
Those are harsh.
It is, yeah, and I realize that now. I wouldn't say you were overall like a good thing for the industry, but you weren't a bad thing for the industry either. I think you kind of balanced it out with how he performed in his role.
Yeah. I mean, I think he certainly helped the Xbox brand out of a really bad era. But I think he then delivered us into an equally bad era, if not the worst, And I think
arguably the worst. Before at least it was just Xbox. Now it's AI and everything that is infringing upon.
Right, but that's a thing that's industry-wide. That's not something that Phil Spencer could have changed.
It's not, but Microsoft's been one of the heaviest pushers of it.
Yeah.
They've done the most layoffs so far as a result of
this
AI
industry,
expansion. Yes.
Yeah.
So specifically only this industry, because who cares about medical technology?
We're not in here for movies.
No,
that's their problem.
That is their problem. They got unions. We got nothing.
Yeah, and so, listen, I want to give a salute to Phil Spencer. I think overall he has done a solid job. I rather him in that spot. I think he did better at Xbox than Jim Ryan did at PlayStation. Personally,
I'd have to measure up Jim Ryan's accomplishments.
We're going to talk about it later when we get to the Bluepoint the topic of conversation, right? But I think Phil Spencer was more positive and more had a more positive influence over Xbox as a brand than like a Jim Ryan did, who I would say is in that same lane as Phil Spencer, But we're going to get to that here in a little bit. I'm sad to see him go. I am not surprised to see him go. This has actually been a topic of conversation that we've had for months, if not almost years now, of certainly Phil Spencer's looking for an out. If I were him, I'd be like, I'm tired of being the fucking punching bag here. I'm the face, and none of these decisions are mine, and all the shitty things that are happening is out of my control, I would assume. And there's nothing I can do about it, and I'm getting beat the fuck up out here for no reason. That's why we stopped seeing him talk so much.
Tavin. Not for no reason.
Oh, yeah, money. Yeah, the all-ending reason, Anyways, so, I can empathize with Phil Spencer, even though I think there have been things that he's done that are a double-edged sword. Game Pass is a double-edged sword, where there are ways that Game Pass has been the best value in gaming for gamers, undeniably, still arguably the best value in games. But on the other end, it's cheapened the value of games, So that's harmful and positive at the same time, So you have to mention that in totality. But as a human being, I think I would rather a Phil Spencer in that position than definitely a Sharma now. But we'll see, because Sharma is saying all of the right things. The problem is that I don't believe her.
It's easy to say the right things. We can do that all the time.
Yeah, right? And we've been predicting for a very long time that Sarah Bond was going to be his successor. Now, I like Sarah Bond well enough as a personality. I certainly prefer Phil Spencer personally, because I think he's more personable, and he just felt like more of a gamer from the jump. But I feel like Sarah Bond has picked up a controller in her life. Sharma, I don't believe for a fucking second she's picked up a controller in her life, right? No disrespect, but I just don't like the fact that her quote is what is the specific thing about quote discovering what it is that makes games great, or whatever she says to that same thing. That's just ugh, I don't like that.
I guess this is a good time to input a post that I saw prior, a couple days ago, where someone was basically lamenting the video game industry and what it's become. And their key criticism of it was, back when video games, in what we've kind of called one of the greatest era of games in the 2000s to 2009s, those kind of games.
The 2010s is a decade?
Yeah.
Sure.
Earlier half, mid half.
I mean, it's hard to pick a decade and be this is the greatest.
It's hard, but that still applies to even before that, in the 90s, in the 80s. This was all before video games became as big as it is now.
Yeah.
One of the highest grossing forms, the highest grossing form of entertainment in the world.
Yeah.
Right? And as it expanded, the people who originally built that up were people who were passionate about the games themselves. You always had people that were on the business side of things, but at the end of the day, it felt far more like an industry that was full of people that loved video games themselves rather than just as a means to make money. Satya Nadella, for example, fits that bill perfectly. He does not give a shit about video games. He cares about money.
Yeah.
And I think you've just seen in game development as a whole, those people who had the passion, as it got bigger and more financially viable, leave, get removed,
get burnt out, get pushed out, or try and start up their own independent startup, and that fails because the industry doesn't support independent studios anymore like it used to. Not that it ever really supported them as well as it should have, but it definitely used to be better than it is today.
And to that point, a great Twitter account, shares news, details, Shinobi602.
If you don't know who Shinobi is, get educated.
Follow him. He's very good.
Yeah.
And these are combined. He made this post off of a Games Radar article and a Games Beat article.
I've not seen this post, so this is new to me.
Literally saw it before we came on the show.
Yeah.
And he basically, Xbox, I'll read the whole entire post in its entirety. Xbox will be sunsetted under new CEO, original Xbox co-founder and console designer Seamus Blackley expects. So he says, and maybe he's over-exaggerating to a degree, but there's a lot of wisdom here. Quote, Xbox, like a lot of businesses that aren't the core AI business, is being sunsetted. There's a little bit of a skip. They don't say that, but that's what's happening. I expect that the new CEO, Asha Sharma, her job is going to be as a palliative care doctor who slides Xbox gently into the night. And at the end of that quote, I'm assuming this is from maybe one of the other articles or whatnot, but he also says, quote, it would have been shocking if they had somebody in there in a meaningful role who was passionate about games, passionate about the creator-driven business of games, because it would be in direct conflict with everything else Microsoft is doing. And he finishes off by saying, Microsoft is a company that is now about enabling its customers by enabling AI to drive things. Mm-hmm. That's at odds with the auteur model of any art, but specifically of games. And this is a guy who's from the era where things clearly changed at a certain point.
Yep.
And I think the core thing is that passion has been
changed
removed.
Recently, too. Probably the last 5 to 7 years is when they really, really changed, right?
Yes.
Is what I would guess. I don't think he's wrong there. It certainly feels that way, especially because Sharma is so AI-centric, and we keep talking about this bubble bursting, and this AI bubble is going to pop soon, and it's going to cause massive layoffs. Like things are just going to keep getting worse. And it's funny because, we've been saying that for the last, 2-3 years now, is things just keep getting worse. God, Connor, the times and the business and the art of video games that inspired us to start this journey that we've been on with TwoPennyGames ended right as we started TwoPennyGames. And it just feels like we come in here every week and talk about negative shit. And it feels like, to me, that when we started it, it felt like we could come in and be positive. And I feel like our first year doing this, we would have a good mix, but it just feels like more and more every single week, it's negative because of these reasons, man. We started this we should have started this podcast a decade ago when we first incepted the idea,
Don't bother.
Anyways.
I will say one last thing.
Yeah.
Satya Nadella, Nadella has certainly had to have said something himself about this, but Microsoft has been talking about making Windows be the prime way people can play video games. Like everything's a Windows platform.
I feel like that was their goal 15 years ago when they were still doing Windows phones, and all of that.
But that's the thing with him talking specifically about Xbox as the brand.
Yeah.
I see that being the replacement.
Well, I feel like you saw the consolidation of that when the Windows UI style became the Xbox UI style back on the 360.
Yeah.
So it would not. Yeah. The more that they can consolidate under the Microsoft brand, the better. And I don't necessarily disagree with him. Uniformity does help when your brand is so wide ranging. I get why. All that to say, I just get why they're doing it. I'm not saying I agree with it, and it certainly takes the character and the personality out of brands like Xbox, right? But this feels like the sunsetting of Xbox. Yeah, it does. And I think when the AI bubble pops, depending on what Sharma does in her role, it could really just tank the whole brand and take it down and say goodbye to that sweet night. Now, from what they're saying, I don't believe that to happen. So let's talk about the potential future of what Xbox is here. And let's assume it's not going to be AI. Let's just talk more brass tacks, normal video game business, right?
Hard to do.
The way Sharma's speaking makes me feel like we are going to pull away from this killing of exclusivity that Xbox has been on for the last few years. So, like, right now, this is the 25th anniversary of Xbox. Another reason why it feels strange for Phil Spencer to retire now, right? You would figure he would do it at the end of the 25th anniversary of Xbox. All of that to say, we have titles coming up this year that we know about, right? Gears of War E-Day, Halo, Campaign Evolved, terrible title. Clever, but terrible. Forza Horizon 6 and Fable, right? Most of those have been confirmed to also be coming to PlayStation and Switch when they can, or if they can, right? I struggle to see the next Halo game being multi-platform. I struggle to see the next Fable, the next Forza, the next any of those multi-platform. I mean, they haven't confirmed Gears of War E-Day. I think this almost certainly says Gears E-Day will be platform exclusive. And I feel like if they really want... Because I feel like a large part of the reason they're going this way is because Xbox console sales have been tanking. And
game sales on those consoles have been lacking, especially compared to PlayStation.
Yeah, like year after year after year, Microsoft has just seen the numbers go down. Now, when it gets ported to other platforms like PlayStation and Switch, the numbers come up. So there's certainly money in that sense. But I feel like Microsoft wants Xbox to be a stronger brand. And they want people to come to Xbox. They want people to come to Microsoft to spend their money in their own ecosystem, not go to PlayStation to play Indiana Jones, not go to Steam to play Call of Duty, right? So I would not be surprised if we see that hammer come down and suddenly all of these games are Xbox exclusive once again and on the next generation of hardware, which will be the last generation of hardware for Xbox, depending on how well these next critical moves play out for them. I think under Phil Spencer, definitively this next generation would have been the last where Xbox is a hardware manufacturer. I don't think Microsoft is done being a hardware manufacturer in games, is my point. And so I think that's probably the main reason as to why Phil Spencer is out alongside AI.
I think we'll see in the coming days
years,
yeah. More so.
and we'll see how it goes, especially with this huge GPU shortage that's happening right now, which is so problematic because of AI and so forth. So it's very, very complicated. Connor, I want to cut to the Sarah Bond part of this conversation, right? And so when the news dropped, Sarah Bond didn't have a topic or didn't have a statement, didn't have a post, nothing. There was actually a post on her LinkedIn profile asking about Xbox, like as a brand. Like it was like it was just a weird post to have as your final post as president of Xbox or whatever, or whatever her title was. I forget. But today, Monday, again, when the news was planned to drop, we did get a statement from her on her LinkedIn profile. And it's worth noting, in all of the statements made by Satya Nadella, Phil Spencer, and Matt Booty, and Sharma, Sarah Bond is not mentioned in those statements. That's interesting to me. But here's Sarah Bond's statement right now. Writing on LinkedIn, where am I pulling from? VGC? I'm pulling from VGC's Andy Robinson. Shout out Andy Robinson. Writing on LinkedIn, Bond said she's decided now is, quote, the right time for me to take my next step both personally and professionally. She shared praise for the incoming CEO, Sharma. Quote, I know there's a lot of news to take in today. I'm incredibly proud of what we've built together over the past 8 years. Plus, PC and cloud gaming are growing faster than ever. Our next console is well underway, and together we've helped lay the foundation for a more open gaming platform that spans devices and reaches players around the world. When we announced our intention to acquire Activision Blizzard in 2022, I committed to helping lead Xbox through what would be a critical period of change. Over the past 4 years, we've navigated that moment together and positioned the business for what comes next. We took on some of the biggest challenges this organization has ever faced and did it as one team. With that, I've decided this is the right time for me to take my next step, both personally and professionally. We're living through a transformative technological era that will shape the next generation of our industry, and I'm energized by what's ahead. Bond said she feels there's a unique opportunity for fresh eyes and new leadership at Xbox to, quote, guide the team into its next chapter, end quote, and confirmed she will maintain some contact with Microsoft as a special advisor. Quote, I've had the privilege of spending time with Asha over the last few weeks as we've planned for this transition, and I've seen firsthand her deep commitment to our players, developers, and brand. She brings deep technology and commerce experience along with a strong track record of building and scaling platforms that the world uses. Xbox deserves this. I'm excited to see her lead the next chapter for our team. I'll remain on as a special advisor to Asha to help ensure a smooth transition and set the organization up for continued success. On Phil Spencer, Bond thanked her boss for mentorship and friendship. Quote, he's been a consistent champion of this business and the people who make it what it is. And I've learned a great deal from the way he leads through both opportunity and challenge. I'm grateful for his trust and support throughout my time on the team. I also want to thank Satya for his sponsorship and support throughout my time at Microsoft. A little bit of word salad here, if I'm being honest.
So when I wrote the article,
yeah,
I cut out people's quotes, right?
Yeah.
It was the parts of when they were just like, I'm happy to be here, proud of what they achieved, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And then there was something like meat on the messages there. Matt Booty was also not doing any of that. It was also a lot of just like nothing statements. This one is also just entirely that. It's just like, I almost think to myself, like, okay, if you make this LinkedIn post, we will keep you on as special advisor. Otherwise, you're just completely out. You know, I'm surprised. That does kind of indicate that it wasn't a forceful push out if she's a certain advisor to it, and it's not just like a cold hard cut. But again, that's just a way to present like a unified, cooperative front rather than what it is, which is cutthroat. I mean, again, going back to AI, they want to ruin people's jobs for short-term or for personalized profit. I don't think they really are that good of people over there at Microsoft. And so it still screams a push out, rather than some natural transition of how things go.
I think they're doing their best to stop the bleeding with how this transition has taken place. They're doing their best with the words that they can, right? But like, if you've just been following the industry, it just doesn't make sense. Sarah Bond, we've said for years, has clearly been supposed to be the successor to Phil Spencer. You know, because we've seen Phil Spencer's retirement coming for years now. And it was clear, to me at least, that Sarah Bond was going to be that successor. And you know, she's been, you know, gaining more and more influence under the Xbox brand. You know, we saw her hold up different campaigns throughout Xbox throughout its time. The Xbox Play Anywhere program, which has been fantastic. The continued evolution of Xbox cloud streaming, which I think is still the leader in cloud streaming when it comes to video games. And most recently, everything is an Xbox ad campaign that's been taking place over the last year, which I think has had many mixed results, mostly negative results to that type of branding. We're going to get into a little bit that here in a second. But even the way she talks about how she's been interacting with Sharma over the last few weeks, Phil Spencer's statement says that they've been planning for this for over a year. So, like, to me, I could be reaching here. To me, that feels like mixed messaging of like wait, only a few weeks we've been vetting Sharma and getting her in? Like, it hasn't been a like 3 to 4 to 6 month process is making sure that she's the one we want in this process. Like everything about this screams something went down.
I mean, even the Phil Spencer part of I talked last year with Nadella. I don't believe that. I understand people were saying he's going to retire, but
I believe it. I believe the conversation was I don't want to leave next year. I want to leave after the 25th anniversary year. So I want us to go out with a bang. And when we did the Xbox Developer Direct and then broke it down later on the Gamescast, I said, hey, this last year was a pretty strong year for Xbox on the creative side. The amount of games we got, the quality of the games, right? This year looks to be even better, right? Because we are getting our major IPs, major franchises all releasing, hopefully all within the same calendar year. And then here we go with this. So, like, it just doesn't make sense to me from a messaging standpoint to be like, hey, I'm passing the reins in the middle of our anniversary year where we are trying to deliver the major Xbox IPs that built the brand. And now we're going to have a change in leadership. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, yeah, something's wrong here. And I think Sarah Bond was either pushed out or has been told, no, you will not be the one in charge after Phil. And she said, all right, well, then I'm going to take my talents elsewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And of course, you don't want to set the building on fire on your way out, you know? Like
ruin your bridges.
Yeah, you don't want to burn your bridges in there and so forth. So, yeah, all of this talk as advisor, even in Phil Spencer's statement, it's just talk.
A lot of this is just talk.
A lot of it is just talk. So.
Even if the news itself is very impactful.
I also want to address Tom Warren of The Verge put out an article today, I believe. And I read the article. It's quite extensive, and I urge everybody else to go read it themselves. I think Tom Warren's doing a good job of reporting what he's hearing from Xbox insiders and former and current Xbox and Microsoft employees. Which has, to summarize it, has basically been the idea that Sarah Bond was someone who could be difficult to work with, that if you did not believe in the brand or believe in the vision or question the vision, that you would be pushed out of those inner circles. And there has been a lot of talk that this is an Xbox ad campaign cheapened the value of Xbox and rubbed a lot of Xbox hardware developers and software developers the wrong way. And that she had, like, all of her programs have sort of created a rift between executives and employees at Xbox in a lot of different ways. Is that true? I don't know. It feels like a lot of he say, she say to me, but Tom Warren is just reporting what he's hearing from insiders in that.
Sometimes that's all you got.
Sometimes that's all you got. And I'm not willing to deny that is the truth behind it. It may be. Or, knowing America to be America, we are pinning all the blame on the one woman of color in a leadership position instead of blaming the entire leadership team, which we have just said over the last 30 plus minutes had a lot of ups and downs. Like, these just weren't the best leaders. Like, Phil Spencer was not the best leader. Matt Booty has been great in the spot that he's been in, but he has not had as much impact and control as Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond. So I feel like as a leadership team, they've been failing. I don't like the push. It feels like a hit piece, the push to discredit Sarah Bond's efforts. Because again, yeah, I didn't particularly care for this is an Xbox. I believe when those commercials first started airing and that campaign first started airing, I said, that's weird. I believe I said
you might
that.
have.
You know, I also probably saw things from both sides of like, okay, well, they're trying to make Xbox the superfluous brand that is on all of your devices. It's also worth noting, in a lot of Sharma's statements and Phil Spencer's statements, they reaffirm their commitment to PC and mobile, but they don't talk about other console brands in any way, shape, or form, or any type of language that hints at that they are going to continue that. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to believe that Sarah Bond was problematic behind the scenes, but I wasn't behind the scenes, so I don't know. It feels like, to me, let's dogpile on the black woman, because there's been plenty of evidence of that happening before, of we are going to hire the person of color and tell them that they've got control of the ship and not tell them that it's a sinking ship, so that when the ship sinks, we can blame it on them.
That's very, 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 very possible. It's hard. Like, as you said, we don't know what her conduct is behind the scenes. We don't know what these guys' conversations are behind the scenes.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, she did come in and nothing really good happened underneath her. Like, whereas Phil Spencer, as much
Her
criticism as
Play
he can
Anywhere,
have,
her Play Anywhere program, I think, is really great.
but was she the one who was like the one creating that idea?
Hard to tell.
Or she's the one that was made to go sell it? And that's kind of what's the issue is she didn't really do anything substantial. As we've said, it was kind of expected. She's going to replace Phil Spencer.
Yeah.
And so if you kept her on, but then replaced Phil Spencer with somebody else, how is that going to work? Is that going to, lead to some problems? Maybe she would feel, chafed at the fact that she had this expectation of where her career at Microsoft was going to go, and it just was completely undercut by the industry being shit right now, in large part because of Xbox's decisions, Microsoft's decisions. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to say, but it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. As it's very useful in these kinds of any kind of structure, whether it's governmental, business. Always good to have a scapegoat of a person who you can say, that's the problem, throw them to the wolves.
Yep.
At the same time, though, Sarah Bond, they haven't really been throwing Sarah Bond under the bus. They just haven't really been mentioning her or talking about how great she is in her role the same way they were other people. So,
not saying something is saying something.
It is. That's true.
But again, for this to happen, her not have a prepared statement.
Yeah.
Or seemingly not have a prepared statement. The prepared statement happening on LinkedIn and not through Microsoft channels, right? I mean, remember when they said that, hey, we're going to start looking at games case by case of going multi-platform? They had a whole Xbox podcast episode about it.
Yeah.
There's been things of lesser extent where they have said, okay, let's sit down and let's talk as leadership to our community directly of what's happening and why it's happening. That is not the case here. Mm-hmm. So to me, that screams that there has been a hard pivot behind the scenes. Something happened behind the scenes, and there's a hard pivot at Xbox where Microsoft wants Xbox to be one thing, and former leadership at Xbox wanted it to be another thing. And because they're in charge, we're throwing them out. It's almost like it reminds me of the scene of, this is going to be a bad example because it's a villain in a movie, but stick with me here. In Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1, there's the scene where Norman Osborn is at the board of directors meeting, and he's talking about how profits are up, everything's great, this, that, and the third. And then one of the old guys at the table goes, yeah, but the board has decided to boot you out. Mm-hmm. That's what this feels like. Now, granted, Norman Osborn's a villain, and I don't think Phil Spencer's a villain. But that's what this feels like.
At the time of the movie, but
huh?
At the time of the movie, he wasn't.
No, he full on. He killed people by that point.
Really?
Yeah. He did he killed
the scientist, the doctor guy. Was that after that?
So he actively kills people in 2 moments to my memory. There's the point where they are the glider program, which is not Norman's program.
Oh yeah.
They are doing tests on it, or they're doing tests with another company. That's what it is. And so Goblin comes in and bombs him and blows up the military guy, And then they have the boardroom scene, which then triggers him to kill all the boardroom members at the parade scene.
But the whole case with that was the split personality of the Green Goblin, not Norman Osborn actively being like, I'm going to do evil things because I'm immoral.
But you see the switch in the boardroom scene where he didn't go, you know how much I sacrifice?
Yeah, because he's unstable, and he also did do a lot for the company. Now he's being pushed out,
So, yeah. I mean, listen, we're getting into the weeds of my analogy,
I know,
which wasn't the best analogy to begin with. But it feels like that, right? Of like, hey, profits are up. We're doing a great job. This, that, and the third. Okay, yeah, but we're getting you out of here.
Yeah. I think, because you're talking mainly about Sarah Bond, I'm assuming, or Phil Spencer, because he seems
Phil
like
Spencer was the main example there.
Oh, okay.
In my example, Phil Spencer was no,
I get you now. Yeah,
Sarah Bond was like the little doctor dude who Norman killed. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I guess he killed 3 people at that point. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
It's a developing story. We're going to keep on hearing a lot more about this.
Yeah,
it's probably going to be one of the bigger things going on throughout the 2026.
There's going to be more eyes on Sharma than there has ever been on an executive certainly in the time that we've ever been doing this podcast.
Great. Like if she's going to be pushing AI, great.
Yeah, we need to keep eyes on her, right? Like we don't keep track of Herman Holst or the other guy who I can't even fucking remember right now. Starts with an N, I think. The Japanese dude who's more in charge of the business side versus the creative side. Which remember, like Herman Holst also like quote unquote stepped down from like the CEO title.
Yeah,
but he's still like in charge of the studios and what they're creatively doing. And of course like the Jim Ryan bit. Remember in 2018, Connor, the Game Awards?
Hideaki Nishino.
There it is, Nishino. When we had those 3 major executives from the big 3 on stage, and it was Phil Spencer, Sean Layden, and Reggie Fils-Aimé.
Mm-hmm.
And now, not even 10 years later, all three of them are gone.
At least Reggie had a good out. You know, he was shimmying out of
Sean
that
Layden
office.
seemed to get kicked out, and I don't know if we'll ever know why. I mean, he keeps talking, and I like that he pops up every once in a while being like, yeah, that's not what I would do. And it's always about the worst parts about PlayStation. He's like, no, I wouldn't have done that, which is funny. And then, Reggie had his good I mean, even Reggie, it was like hey, guys, we are transitioning Reggie out. Doug Bowser's coming in. Even the way Doug Bowser left, we're transitioning him out. This lady is stepping in.
That one was weird.
That one was weird, but I believed in the message more than this one. I think Doug Bowser was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna head out," But like, man, just the way that those leaders and the brands that they represented and the era of gaming that they represented is just like it's fully gone. Mm-hmm. Like the thing that like the times that made me fall in love with not just video games but the industry as a whole is over. Like it's never coming back. Like, and it just kind of hurts to see that on a personal note.
I think I've said this before. This will be my last thought.
Yeah.
Just because things are dour as they have been, this only makes it worse. My desire is becoming more like I'm joking, I'm being funny, and kind of I want it to happen. I want the games industry to crumble. I think we're going to have so many other things happening just in general in this country, and really mainly in the country, that are going to fall through the cracks and crash and burn. And if at least at the end of the day, because is this really what we want to keep on going with? Just constantly having bad news, someone being used for their workforce, just used and abused, so a few select individuals can make a lot of money and then kick them out and drive away the creative aspect that's made this industry so great, that's made video games so great? Or would I like us to go through a lot of hard times, which I think are inevitable, and this no longer being as premier of a way to seek out entertainment? It's not the number one source of entertainment, and that way maybe there's a lot less of the business-minded folks that infect the industry, and you can kind of have people that just love it for the passion of the games come back and take it over. It's a hopeful, wishful thinking, but it's speaking purely from an idealized perspective, I at this point kind of want it to happen. I'm not even joking.
I think I empathize with the thought behind it. I don't agree
Reality,
that I want
know.
it to happen, right? But I empathize with the perspective. I had theorized once upon a time, and I don't remember if it was even on camera or not, but I theorized that, like, I don't think this industry can actually sustain a big three. And the fact that we've had a big three for so long is probably why we are where we are. Mm-hmm. Like, you look at early days where you look at, like, Nintendo, Sega, and Atari, right? And then, of course, Nintendo's the only one to survive there. And then you saw the rise of PlayStation, and then Sega died out, and then you saw the rise of Xbox. And for a minute there, it looked like Nintendo was going to die out in the Wii U era, right? And then things turned around, thankfully, I think, because of the Nintendo Switch. And I think,
they did.
As much as you rightfully criticize Nintendo as being kind of greedy and price gouging all of their games and consoles and so forth, they're the least problematic.
They're the most creative, focused, and
right.
They are the best on the creative side. They have the
strongest stance against AI.
They do,
and but they also talk the least. Mm-hmm. They're also the most secretive, and I think sometimes that silence is a very strong weapon. And I think Xbox's big problem, and it used to be PlayStation's problem too, is that they just talk too much. Mm-hmm. And we've seen in the last 10 years now, PlayStation stopped talking so much. And we're seeing Xbox, I think, start to do that as well because they've realized the value of silence. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, and I think it's also probably why transitioning into our next story, starting why we're seeing them sort of like
hide.
Yeah, and when they fuck up, they get to hide, and then the louder guy gets to take all of the controversy. So, Connor, let's move on to topic number 2. I don't even know how long into this, an hour probably. Let's jump into Not yet. Well, you got to remember the story being read earlier in the thing.
We are.
Add a little bit more time to that piece of recording down there. Anyways, we'll find out. Anyways, Connor, let's move on to topic number 2. This is going to be your first topic of the day. Go ahead, my friend.
The phenomena, we need a name for it, of whenever PlayStation does something bad, it'll all be distracted by the fact that Microsoft does something worse later on. PlayStation, maybe not even worse. Well, yeah, probably.
No, this is worse.
Yeah. Worse on the horizon. Right now, this is worse. In the moment. PlayStation closes remake studio Bluepoint Games. They weren't always just doing remakes, as you'll see, but...
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Bloomberg reports that Sony shut down Bluepoint Games, the game studio famous for its remakes of Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. Speaking with Bloomberg, a PlayStation spokesperson confirmed 70 employees were laid off, quote, following a recent business review, end quote. Sony's CEO Herman Hulst subsequently sent out an internal note, viewed by Kotaku, elaborating on the decision to shutter the studio. Quote, I wanted to share an update from the studio business. As I mentioned in the December Town Hall, 2025 had some strong highlights within the PlayStation studios. Ghost of Yotei launched to critical and commercial success. Death Stranding 2 on the Beach further showcased our commitment to narrative excellence, and Helldivers 2 and MLB The Show continue to drive ongoing player engagement and revenue.
Can we pause right there? Don't start your letter about how you're laying off 70 people with all of the success you've had in the last calendar year.
Yes.
Like, it just feels tone deaf of sales are out. Ghost of Yotei sales were out of this world incredible, right?
Yep.
Like, they outperformed expectations on everything. Helldivers 2 was also fantastic. MLB The Show continues to be a titan in revenue, consistent revenue driving. And then, of course, Death Stranding 2 also selling well, also had great critical success. And yes, Kojima is continuing to give PlayStation artistic credibility. But we're going to close one of our most beloved studios?
Yes.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
And well, I will say also, because we're on it right now, Helldivers 2 was not a planned success. That was a surprise success that they piggybacked off the success, which is good.
It wasn't a success for PlayStation. It was a success for the developers because they had a vision, believed in it, committed to it. And we're going to get into that in a second, even deeper here.
Continuing the quote, at the same time, we're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment. Rising development costs slowed industry growth, changing player behavior, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. To navigate this reality, we need to continue adapting and evolving. We've taken a close look at our business to ensure we're delivering today while still well-positioned for the future. As a result, we will be closing Bluepoint Games in March. This decision was not made lightly. Bluepoint is an incredibly talented team, and their technical expertise has delivered exceptional experiences for the PlayStation community. I want to thank everyone at Bluepoint for their creativity, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. Where possible, we will work to find opportunities for some impacted employees within our global network of studios. While I know this is hard news to hear, I'm confident in the direction we're headed. Creativity, innovation, and building unforgettable experiences for players remain at the heart of PlayStation Studios. We have a robust roadmap for fiscal year 26, with much looked forward to in the months ahead. Thank you for your hard work and continue to support. End quote. Thank you for your hard work and continue to support. Continue to support? Continued support.
Yeah, you're just adding words. What you wrote is great.
Yes, fuck. Bluepoint formed...
I guess not what you wrote, but you know what I mean.
I wrote this. Oh, I see, yeah. Copied and pasted. Bluepoint formed in 2006 in Austin, Texas, where they'd work on remasters such as 2009's God of War Collection, 2011's Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, and Gravity Rush Remastered in 2015. Bluepoint has recently been known for the remakes of Shadow of the Colossus in 2018 and the aforementioned Demon's Souls in 2020, with both being financial successes. Bluepoint would soon after become a PlayStation first-party developer when it was bought in September 2021. Bluepoint had yet to release a game underneath the PlayStation banner, although they'd begun development on a live service God of War title that never saw the light of day once it was canceled alongside another live service game from Bend Studio in January 2025. Soon after the news of the layoffs broke, gaming YouTuber Detective Seeds claimed to have spoken with two now former employees who clarify it was in fact Bluepoint who pitched themselves the live service God of War game, and that since it was canceled, the studio has yet to greenlight a new project. Detective Seeds notes that morale was low following the cancellation, and that multiple employees thought it was only a matter of time before the studio closed as pitches kept being rejected.
So that's what I want to focus on.
Yes, so do I. Because on one hand, it's, the live service title fell through. And surprisingly, I wouldn't have thought this. It was Bluepoint that decided they wanted to do that.
This has actually been a shared experience amongst PlayStation Studios. I think the call went out to everybody. Hey, we want pitches of live service games. Tell us what you got. And I believe Bluepoint, having a history with God of War, won the God of War Remaster Collection that you mentioned, right? Which is what I've been playing on my PlayStation Vita right here. And their support through God of War Ragnarok, it just kind of made sense for them to be like, well, let's do God of War. You know, we've got a history with it. We've our
Helped with Ragnarok.
We helped with Ragnarok, so we are
can do this.
intimately familiar with the mechanics and the workings of how the game works. So let's do that, right? And I'm sure they had a pitch that probably made sense, and they got greenlit and this, that, and the third. There's also been a long history. Well, not a long history now, but there's been a history of reportings of after Demon Souls, Bluepoint wanting to do something original. You know, they didn't want to be the remake guys. Now, does that mean you want to be the God of War multiplayer guys? I don't know, but I think the call, because Jim Ryan's focus during his tenure at PlayStation was live service. You know, remember the call for we've got 12 live service games in development, and then that turned into 6, and then that's turned into 2. We'll see if Fair Games will ever make it to market. It won't. Marathon is around the corner. We'll see how successful that is. You know. Certainly the public perception on Marathon has kind of turned around a little bit. So now it's just a matter of, is the game good? And the follow-up to that of, is it good enough and generating enough revenue to keep Bungie alive or Marathon alive, you know? So we'll see all that. My concern with Bluepoint is studio closed as pitches kept getting rejected. You got to imagine they started pulling levers, right?
Yes.
They started being like, okay, God of War Trilogy remake. Let's do that. No, we're going to have Santa Monica do that. Okay? Bloodborne remake. You know, the people want it. We can do it. We just delivered upon a masterful Demon Souls remake. No, we're not interested in that right now because you got to start looking at timelines, you know? Their last game was in 2020 with the Demon Souls remake. Did well, but did well on a piece of hardware that was having trouble selling because of
supply chain issues.
Supply chain issues, thank you. And so, you know, over time, the Demon Souls remake has sold quite a bit. But over time, you know, not instant hits, which is what they care about, you know, in the moment. And so then
But it was the biggest at the time.
Yeah.
So take what you get. And this is...
So 3 to 4 years put in on this God of War and then, you know, you were a support studio for God of War Ragnarok, and then 2 to 3 years of work on the live service God of War game down the drain, and then another year of pitches that don't excite them because PlayStation looks at it, or Sony rather looks at it and goes, okay, if we greenlight this, how much longer is that going to take? And we've already given you 3 years of development sunk costs that have gone down the toilet. And so how much longer is it? Nah, let's just pull this plug. You know?
Yeah.
Go ahead, because I've got more, but go ahead.
No, continue on then.
Well, I'm transitioning. So
okay.
Give me what you got.
So Detective Seeds was talking about how, you know, basically they were... What did I not include here? I know I left out something from Detective Seeds.
Okay, well then I guess I'll take it back over. Okay. When we start looking at the first party studios, the stable of studios that PlayStation has right now, you just got to put some question marks on the table as to why Bluepoint. And you know, I guess it's because, you know, we still have a sunk cost. Like, I don't understand why Haven Studios is still around, and I don't understand why we're even pretending like Fair Games is going to make it to market. That game's not making it to market.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I forgot. One of the employees said, and this isn't like super intimate knowledge that they had.
Wannabe employee?
One of the employees
that
he spoke with, Detective Seed spoke with. One of them just didn't want to comment on it. The other one commented but didn't want them to like name the specific thoughts they had.
Right.
But they are under the understanding that this is like the first domino, and that other studios are being prepared to be, you know, closed down like Bluepoint Games was.
Yeah.
We don't know what those are, but I think you're going to definitely see that happen a lot more.
And it's just a thing of like, well, then why not fucking do it? Just pull the plug on all of them. Are we just trying to get past the fiscal year and we just have to kill Bluepoint now? Like, what are we waiting for?
I think
we know there are studios you can just point at and look at and go, and no disrespect to the creators, y'all are all incredibly talented and you don't deserve this.
It's them that are losers.
But writing is on the wall. Mm-hmm. And if we feel it, I'm sure you feel it too.
Well, I think maybe the element we don't usually focus on because we're not losers, I said that word twice, is you also have to factor in investors, and the market. And is someone who's
Which
investing
is like, okay, so are we just waiting for the fiscal year to end?
Yeah, very likely. And if you do all of these things at the same time, it might be a lot worse of a backlash than if you just did it piecemeal.
Because I mean, Bend has got to be on the chopping block as well.
You
And
would
again,
think.
no disrespect to Bend, I believe they were shortchanged as well. Days Gone should have gotten a sequel. It sold well enough, you know, and the perception of that game has improved over time. People like that game.
Live service title. Start working on that.
God damn it! And I fully believe a Days Gone 2 would have been badass.
I think that they would have learned from the first game
Yep.
all that's wrong with it, improved narrative, because I know that's the thing that's most made fun of.
These studios are just not given room to grow anymore. If you're not an instant hit, get the fuck out of here. And it sucks, man.
And you have one slip up, which is just inevitable in this business, that could just be the end of you. It doesn't matter how storied you are. It doesn't matter that you clearly have value. Being the
Crazy
remake guy.
talent. Yeah.
Funny enough, man, thank you, Embracer Group. Thank you. Thank
Whoa,
you
whoa, whoa, whoa,
for,
whoa, hold on. They didn't-
for
no, no, no.
literally no. Actually, like, props to them, because when Saber Interactive could have possibly just been shut down, they were like, we'll let you go independent. We'll let you go off and do your own thing.
I mean, there's been cases of that happening as well, you know.
Yeah, but it's a success story, because then they made Space Marine 2 and that released that. And
It's
it was
success
like,
for
"Whee!"
Saber, not for Embracer. But
Who gives a shit? That's what matters. We don't
you
care
said
about
thank
Embracer.
you, Embracer. You started your
In the
statement
sense
with
of-
praise
in
for
the sense
Embracer
that
Group.
They're now able to continue to survive. They got the John Wick game coming because they're no longer under Embracer.
That's
because
great for
Embracer
Saber.
But Embracer could have done what these guys are doing, which is just immediately can them.
Yeah.
If I can't have them, nobody else can. This is what happens when these people, again, going back from the
So are
Xbox
you gonna
story,
say
the ones
thanks,
who are in
Are you going to say thanks to Microsoft too when Toys for Bob's next game is a hit? If it's a hit?
yeah.
Okay.
But no,
As long as
they're how many? No, I won't. Never mind. Because Embracer Group, they haven't really closed as much as they haven't gotten rid of as many jobs. Okay, maybe Embracer Group is not good. But the point is, their standard.
This is my point, Connor. This is a terrible example.
But it's a perfect example in the terms that's what the standard should be. Quit just closing them, because I think it really is. When you look at the people who are at the heads of these places, as I was saying with the Microsoft, the creatives left, the ones who are trying to penny pinch and get as much money out of it as possible are left, and they view these things as, well, this is our IP, that this is our studio, whatever, and we want to control it just for the sake of controlling it, because that's what they care about.
It's probably better for investors to shut these studios down than to let them go.
That also too, you know. So it's just
Because it's probably seen as unrecoupable money spent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where it's like, oh, we could have done a tax write. That's probably what it is. We're doing tax write-offs on studios we're shutting down, not versus like however much it took to acquire Bluepoint is now down the drain and gone forever.
Not to mention the fact that they are mentioning how they're going to get some people jobs in the company. And again, going back to Detective Seeds, one of the people had no job offers after that. The other one was given other positions. And so the other side of that is, well, we know this game studio is good. Our own decisions fuck it up, and because we don't care about games as an art, we're gonna cut all these jobs and then scavenge the parts that we want to keep. You know, the employees that we like enough to work on other projects.
And I mean, to be like, I place a lot of this on Jim Ryan personally because he started that train. We know for a fact he's the one who's kicked down that live service door and said we're doing this.
Yeah.
You know, and then Sony did not change funding. They just allocated more funding behind that project, and it was a complete disaster. They have not had, I mean, you can point to Helldivers 2, like we mentioned, but they have not had one live service success since they've started this journey outside of an occasional Destiny 2 thing. I'm not counting Helldivers 2 because Helldivers 2 would have been that with or without this initiative, right?
Yeah.
And so it really makes me respect the Helldivers dev team for not. They must have gotten an offer and them saying, no, we'll just be partners. Let's just be partners and we'll continue making games for you. But we're not going to be a first-party studio. And I think I want to look at Sucker Punch. I think Sucker Punch has done a great job of operating their business because they have had, throughout their entire career as a first-party studio, which is pretty much their entire career, they've always had opportunity for growth. And they have always decided to keep it small, all the way back to the Infamous days, like where Infamous was a hit. Infamous 2 worked really well as well, and they have always kept their team to about the same size that it is today, even after their major successes with the Ghost of Tsushima and Yote games, which have been the most profitable franchise that they have had under their tenure, right? So, like, I truly think it's about keeping costs down, keeping your team small, keeping focused on the art. And I think it's just led us to a point to where both Tsushima and Yote, we have looked at those games and been like, incredible art style, not the prettiest games.
Doesn't need to be.
But the art style is so good and the execution on it is so good that we don't care, right? And even though those games have been taking a long time to make still, but
that's game development in general,
right? You know,
but
and like I think there's just something to that. Like let's just keep these games small. I'm very nervous about the first party stable at PlayStation right now. It feels like nobody, if your name is not Santa Monica or Naughty Dog, it feels like you're not safe. And I feel like Sucker Punch has only been able to avoid the hammer coming down so much is because they've stayed focused on as to what Sucker Punch as an IP is. Right?
I agree. I mean, the core issue.
I'm looking at Insomniac and going, man, I
happen
really
next?
hope Wolverine hits, man, because
it will.
Like you look at the numbers in the budgets, Spider-Man from Spider-Man to Spider-Man 2, the budget increase has been out of this world insane.
And they laid off people in that project as well afterwards.
Even with the success of those games, you know, like, and so like, I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, the industry just has to take a step backwards and say, hey, they're too expensive. This is not sustainable. We got to pull it back.
Well, that's kind of the point where the ballooning of the industry has led to like any kind of problem you can think of probably was because it's gotten so big and expansionism isn't necessarily just a good thing. And it's why I go back to the fact I kind of hope things crash and burn so we can maybe go back to a better time.
I think a step back is fine.
Crash and get restructured.
I would love a restructuring.
Yeah.
You know,
but I think it needs to crash to happen.
We'll see. But. You know, if I were to guess, I mean, we don't know what Santa Monica is doing, but it sounds like their game is coming soon. Like we're going to be getting word about it this summer from everything that we're made to believe, right? So there's that. I'm curious to see what Intergalactic from Naughty Dog does. And I feel like that is probably going to be the last major game that is going to have an inflated budget to the point that we have been seeing.
We might, or it's just going to be Naughty Dog doing that because they've talked about how Intergalactic is going to be a series, not just a one-off game. I don't know how many games they would do overall, but I think they'd still want to keep that up because they're still so profitable. But maybe, they won't get bigger in terms of budget. They won't be trying to go to the bigger and better graphics and
Naughty
more
Dog
minute
has not
details.
Been the studio where every game feels incredibly different or it feels like the same game since the PS3. You know, like the Uncharted trilogy, those were like, okay, clear, like just iterating on the same formula. But Last of Us to Last of Us 2 feel like two different video games. Like with the same formula, but no, I'm talking game feel and mechanics and things. Like you're still going, oh, but like the idea is the same, but like I'm talking like how the sprint works and how, you know, diving and crawling and like we're having these massive changes and the graphical jump as well. Uncharted 4 has a different game mechanic feel in its shooting and how you navigate the world than the trilogy did, right? Lost Legacy is a DLC project that expanded. And I believe Intergalactic will be that. I believe them when they say Intergalactic is a new series that they have. But I do believe Intergalactic 2 will be a lot more like the jump from maybe not Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, but Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 3, where it's like, another one. Okay, cool.
I mean, it just really depends what Sony's going to do because they're so... I don't get them. I don't get why they would close this studio down rather than keep it around and let them do what they do, which is make great games. Or even if you kept around as a support studio with how many other games they make that take forever to get out. Wouldn't you want to put these people at least towards helping them out?
Because they've been that, and the numbers still aren't helping. You know,
the numbers still aren't helping. Yeah,
it's
they're not helping across the board though. In general,
such a waste of talent, such a heartbreaking waste of talent. Where we have this studio who's been doing great remaster collections. You named a few with God of War and Metal Gear Solid, and then also the Nathan Drake collection.
Yep,
as well. But to do that and then move into creating one of the best remakes of all time from one of the greatest games of all time with Shadow of the Colossus, and then doing another one of the greatest remakes of all time and sort of lifting up the original game in a way that it never was in Demon's Souls. Like, nobody talked about Demon's Souls the way they talk about it now until after that remake. You know what I mean? Respectfully. Because, you know, we've got a review on Demon's Souls where they paved the way and they started the ball rolling. But, like, Demon's Souls was always this game's not that great, you know? And then that remake really uplifted how the public feels about Demon's Souls in a major way. And then to get acquired, and it made sense. That acquirement made sense. When it happened, it felt like all right, get ready. They're about to, because PlayStation has a treasure trove of IP, of games that are begging for remakes, man, or at least like old partnerships from games that are known to be PlayStation branded. Fucking this little guy right here, Solid Snake. Where's my goddamn Metal Gear Solid remake?
Never getting that.
It's happening.
No, you're not.
Huh?
You're not.
You don't think so?
I'm willing it into existence. Or non-existence,
All right, you're just
really.
a hater. But then to just be like, hey, you're just going to be a support for Ragnarok to help us get it out the door, and then you're going to make a live service game, and then we're going to close you down. Like, God, fuck, what a waste. What a waste.
Only going to get more wasteful. I hate waste.
And
this industry.
Like,
this
it's
industry
just
sucks.
so annoying because we have a lineup of studios that we know are on the chopping block. Like, there's just no way. There's just no way that Fair Games makes it to market. I don't see how it's possible. And Haven Studios is gonna get shut down. And then I just don't see how Bend survives this either. And again, this is no disrespect to those teams. Those teams are talented, and they deliver on games. But apparently, if you're not double-digit % growth on ROI, get out of here. That's so impossible to attain and retain.
Sony is Japanese, correct? That's my last thought on the subject. It's very controversial, but they still have the death penalty in Japan.
Jesus.
But in particular, it is not that bad.
No,
the problem is
not,
the methodology and the caveats that come with it. Like, for example, well, this isn't really a caveat. This is more just a thing that's said that's immoral, where the person who's being executed never knows when they're going to be executed. So they literally will just be like, one day, all right, time to go to the execution chamber and die. Maybe that same methodology is what they're doing here. Just we know what's dying.
I thought you were calling for heads of Sony executives.
Well, I think we're just going to see the flies start dropping. They're beautiful golden flies, but they're flies.
Connor,
let's
move on to our third topic of the day. This is going to be your second penny of the day. Take it away, my friend.
I have no clue who this publication is.
CGM.
CGM Mag Online, I think is not usually when we pull from.
That's the website, you know?
Yes. Square Enix teases Nier Automata to be continued as game hits 10 million sales. To be or not to be. This is from Hayes Matson. You think of me all of a sudden. In fitting fashion for the franchise, Square Enix has released a cryptic teaser for the future of the Nier franchise, coinciding with its 10th anniversary. A lengthy new video was released by Square Enix, looking at pretty much everything that's ever happened to Nier in a sequential timeline. The video flicks through clips of the game releases, oddly named DLC, the piano and orchestral concept, stage play, and even a helping of the dozens of collaborations that 2B has appeared in. At the very tail end of the video, there's a single line of text saying, Nier Automata, to be continued. Of course, we have no idea what that really means. To be continued. There we go, right? Of course, we have no idea what really means, or even what kind of format this continuation could take. Considering it's Nier, we can't just assume a sequel game is in the works. It could be any number of things, considering the series has dabbled in novels, manga, anime, stage plays, and audio dramas. But it's hard to imagine Square Enix wouldn't want another big Nier game, considering the numbers it announced alongside this video. Nier Automata had officially reached 10 million sales. This makes it one of Square Enix's most successful games to date, as only a few titles like Final Fantasy and Tomb Raider have exceeded the threshold. Fun fact, not a single Dragon Quest or Kingdom Hearts game has sold more than 10 million copies. Nier Replicant has also sold 2 million copies.
All right, Hayes, you got a little... Yeah, your bias is showing, Hayes.
Because he knows what's great, Tavin. A Nier creator, Yoko Taro, has been quiet as of late, as we haven't seen a new game project from him in years. Although on a panel at a Korean video game convention, G-Con 2025 last November, as reported by Automaton, he did say he's been working on a lot. Things were just getting canceled. Quote, I often get told stuff like, why aren't you making a new sequel to Nier? Or Yoko Taro isn't doing anything. But that's because recently a lot of projects I was involved in got discontinued midway through development. I've actually been working on some stuff. It's just that it never ended up seeing the light of day, Taro said. I got paid for it, so I personally have no issue with that. But people seem to think that I haven't been doing anything just because none of the work I've done is being released. Yoko Taro is always always a great figure in the gaming industry.
I think that statement is so emblematic of everything that's happening in this industry right now. Yeah. And it really is heartbreaking. We're kind of chuckling at it, but it really is heartbreaking because it's like a lot of these developers are spending years on these projects, and they got nothing to show for it. The resume is a blank slate. Here's the fucking... What was the thing when... Not Circuit City. What was the electronics store that went defunct?
Ooh. Fuck.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know the story. I don't know the name.
It was the red branding. Fuck.
Oh shit, Radio Shack.
Radio Shack.
Yes.
When Radio Shack went under, the people were putting Radio Shack as on their resumes because it was like there's nobody to prove that. You know what I mean? So like I almost feel like game devs can't do that here because they have to show work and all of their work is NDA'd to hell. So like they can't do that. But it'd be like, hey man, I was at Bluepoint for 10 years. You know, there's this, and I've got nothing recent to show you because all of those games got canceled. Yoko Taro is doing the same thing, except, from public perception of like, hey man, I got paid, so like it doesn't matter to me, but like, and my name speaks for itself. But not everybody is Yoko Taro.
And literally, when we were getting ready to record, the famous anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion is getting a new series with him writing it. So that's one of the things he clearly was talking about working on. But yeah, you
can't do another Nier Automata game without him.
You can. He had to be attached to that.
I think
he has to
be attached to
because Yoko Taro is one of like the best writers in the gaming industry. I would argue.
Oh, right now,
yeah.
for sure, yeah.
And Square Automata does end in a way where I'm surprised we're getting a sequel, but you could do that. You could play around with it, especially when you include Taro's writing into it and how weird he thinks about things.
Well, then let's full stop. Congratulations, Nier Automata hitting 10 million sales. That's incredible. That is something you would never expect from an IP like that. That is so fucking crazy good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's at like Kingdom Hearts. There's not been a Kingdom Hearts title that's done that. That's fucking impressive, right? That series has Mickey Mouse on the cover.
It wasn't enough.
So
this has got something better than Mickey Mouse on the cover.
Okay. So congratulations to Nier Automata for hitting 10 million. That's really, really, truly impressive. Like I would not have expected those numbers from that game.
I wouldn't have either.
Yeah. Connor, do you believe this is a game?
Yeah, because they've done so many weird things with Nier Automata. I know he lists off a lot of the things they did, and it could possibly be those things, like stage plays. They've literally given, like, I haven't seen them, but apparently important narrative points are discussed in these stage plays, right? And so I just have a hard time believing the way they presented this, they would do Nier Automata to be continued and just be like some external manga comic show.
Was so intentional with that. There's no way that pun was not intended, right?
And they could
have said Nier Automata will return. They could have said more Nier Automata in the works or anything like that, right? There's a million ways to phrase it that are even more like that are better said. Like Nier Automata to be continued is kind of a clunky way to say that. Not fully, like it still gets the message across fine, but there's just better ways to say that in the English language, but to be continued, all right.
I love it. And that's really the question of, are they going to do this? Because as you mentioned before, they did an anime series just recently. They didn't have any kind of big special guess what it's going to be.
Yeah.
They were pretty open about what that was.
Now, Connor, I haven't really played Nier Automata, but you've played it just once?
Twice. Well, I picked it up a second time.
Okay. But you being a fan of the game and following Yoko Taro's works in general, where do you think they would go with this? What would a Nier Automata sequel even be?
That's the to give you an understanding, right? Nier Replicant.
And I'm gonna go ahead and say there might be some light spoilers here.
I'm gonna try not do that.
Right.
Nier Replicant takes place in a kind of like feudalistic, apocalyptic, like it's still it was our world where people are kind of reverting, humanity's kind of having some issues. I haven't played the game, so I'm unfortunately very I got a lot of blind spots there. But there's a lot of humans in the game. They live in villages, so on and so forth, towns. I know that much. Nier Automata, which is a direct sequel. Well, not a direct sequel. It's a sequel. Takes place 10,000 years or so in the future. Humanity's dead. Or they moved to the moon, I'm sorry. But they're no longer around, and robots came from outer space and are invading the planet, and they've created androids to combat them instead of wasting human lives. The jump from that to that, and still having, connecting threads there, is why Yoko Taro's writing is unpredictable. I cannot predict what happens next. All I know is that there are characters, or a character, or something like that, from Nier Automata that can make an appearance here. But in the same way, there's also a character in Nier Replicant who is in Nier Automata, and they're also done in a whole entirely different way, and it's very strange. My point is, there's literally no way to predict. And I'm not intimate enough with Yoko Taro's general writing, especially with Drakengard, where he apparently gets really fucking freaky weird, to say anything confidently about it. And it's why I like him so much. It's kind of the same way with Hideo Kojima. He's the most similar figures, where you can maybe guess what Kojima's doing, but I'm just throwing things to the wall and hoping they stick,
But
knowing that
nobody
none of them
would've
really
guessed
are.
Death Stranding.
What?
But then when the time came, nobody knew Death Stranding. We didn't even know what that game was.
Exactly.
Anyways. But you're right in that comparison for sure. Very excited.
I'm
Very hopeful.
We got to play it on the Game Club before this comes out. I don't know when. I don't know when it's going to come out.
To beat some time. I think we're gonna be okay.
Because it took like 4 years when Nier Automata was revealed to actually come out.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, I think the numbers back it up. Square Enix, not last year, I think the year before. It's hard to remember. But Square Enix did be like, hey, we're gonna limit what we're doing, and we're going to be more focused in our scope and scale and just output of games. When they said that, I went, oh, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts. But Nier is also a franchise that totally makes sense for them to focus on and deliver on. So I think this is their way of continuing development of, we'll say, fresher IPs, or an IP that like isn't so rooted in gaming history to the point like Final Fantasy's never going away, right?
No.
So where's the advancement there? Nier as an IP can be advanced and
Played around with
and like can inspire newness, freshness, things that will bring in new fans and so forth. And I think Automata clearly did that with 10 million copies sold.
Really strange.
Again, incredible stat for a game like Nier Automata. That game should not
No.
be selling 10 million copies. Congratulations, that's
It
fantastic.
was only 2 years between when they announced it and when it came out. I was wrong.
Automata.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Moving on to our final topic of the day. This is going to be my final penny. Ubisoft CEO breaks silence, says the company has multiple Far Cry and Assassin's Creed games coming. This is from VGC's Andy Robinson again. Did we do Robinson last time?
No,
it was the other guy. I'm sorry. I apologize. Ubisoft has said it's working on multiple Assassin's Creed and Far Cry games spanning both single-player and multiplayer.
Really?
The details were shared in a new Variety interview with CEO Yves Guillemot, who discussed the company's recent restructuring, including its Tencent-backed subsidiary Vantage Studios, which will steward Assassin's Creed and Far Cry going forward. Quote, "We have a solid pipeline underway across Vantage Studios," Guillemot said. Quote, "Under the Assassin's Creed brand, several titles are in development spanning both single-player and multiplayer experiences, with the ambition to further grow a community that exceeds 30 million players last year." That exceeded 30 million players last year, excuse me. He added, quote, "On Far Cry, anticipation is high, and we currently have 2 very promising projects in development. Last month, Ubisoft detailed a major reset at the company, which will see its creative teams radically restructured into autonomous creative houses. The publisher is also rolling out cost-cutting initiative, which has so far resulted in the cancellation of 6 games, the postponement of 7 others, and 2 studio closures. Ubisoft has also promised the elimination of up to 200 jobs at its headquarters in Paris, France, or around 18% of staff. Many staff have protested against the decision, with unions calling for Guillemot to step down. In response to the protest, the CEO said, quote, "I fully understand the legitimate concerns of our teams in France and around the world. Ubisoft is going through a major phase of transformation affecting our organization, operations, and culture. Changes of this scale naturally raise questions and create tension, particularly when they impact people's routines, and I recognize that. My commitment is to listen, lead responsibly, and keep our teams engaged at the same time. We can't ignore that we are part of an industry that is more competitive and demanding than ever. Delivering at the level of quality and ambition our players expect requires strong alignment, speed of execution." What are we fucking talking
Thank
about?
God. I was
What are we saying?
The
None
entire
of these words
time,
mean anything.
I wanted to jump in and do the little joke of like, can we stop talking now? This doesn't matter. This means nothing. You did it for me.
What
It's just
the
ridiculous.
fuck?
It's so stupid, man.
Oh my God.
This is off the back of like, hey, your employees are upset that you're cutting a bunch of jobs. I think they're also very much pushing AI. I'm maybe confusing with someone else. We got problems with how you're doing things. He's like, I understand.
Let me finish.
And that's
Finally, on your question about
Stop.
unions, I believe more transparency and open dialogue with our teams in all its forms, and especially in times of major change, are essential.
Meaning, I don't want unions. I want you to keep having to talk to me and trust my word, and for me to screw you over whenever I so desire. That's all it is.
Connor, you've been killing it this episode.
I hope
buddy.
so.
You've been fucking killing it.
Either
Except
I'm
for
killing
the
it or
weird-
I'm killing
except for the
myself.
except for the weird like execution thing that you went on down there. That was unclear as to what your point was, and also the whole crash and burn thing. That's gonna a lot of people are gonna suffer from that.
Somebody's
which,
being
like,
radical.
I get your point, but like I also don't believe that major suffering needs to happen for major prospering.
It does need to. At a certain point, it does.
I don't think games are there.
Maybe not. But
and I also think we're suffering pretty majorly right now.
Awful.
Listen. And also, it's worth noting that I think it is the Ubisoft France studio that recently just faced a bunch of major layoffs. They confirmed the Splinter Cell remake is still in development. Yeah, we'll see. And there was another headline that was popping around. Listen, Ubisoft is doing Ubisoft things. They are reacting to industry headwinds, blah, 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 in the same way that every other major publisher is. And I think they are handling it, just as poorly, if not even worse than every other publisher is. And the problem is that, like, I think we're just past the point where these IP matter to the gaming people, like, as much. Far Cry has been on a downward trend for the last several titles. Assassin's Creed has been a mess of franchise identity for the last 10 years. And yeah, I think we're just at a point and the Ubisoft just doesn't respect the IPs that built the brand, like Prince of Persia, like the Rabbids and the fucking, what's his name? Is Rayman a Ubisoft thing? It is, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, Ubisoft just does not respect the brands that built them in any way. And, I think, they're going to continue to milk Tom Clancy's name, may he rest in peace, for as long as they can with games. Who knows? Division 3 is coming, I guess. We'll see. A Splinter Cell remake is coming, I guess. We'll see. I don't believe that.
Quick revision. I'm sorry. No, go on. Sorry.
And, Siege is continuing to be Siege, which, to be fair, Siege is doing pretty well.
It is. It always seems to have been doing well.
There's been some ups and downs, but we're on an upward swing right now. It seems like people really like people really like where Siege is right now. And so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is just a tiny note. They aren't known to really be expanding into AI. I confuse that with EA. I always confuse EA and Ubisoft so much. They're just equally shitty. EA is just slightly more so because they're selling themselves to an evil regime, but...
See, well, I guess there is that part.
Yeah.
I was going to say I'm more favorable towards EA right now because EA doesn't feel like they're disrespecting me as much as Ubisoft does. Ubisoft, I feel like, disrespects me every other week.
Well, it is, because, first of all, I guess we'll just kind of wave this aside. Yeah, of course, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry games are coming. You've never shut up about that's like all you've got to try and make money. You're not really creative with what kind of games you're making right now, Ubisoft. So no one's expecting anything beyond more live service titles and Assassin's Creed titles and Far Cry titles and the things that people think make money. It's just every single time this guy fucking talks, I just can't stand it. Something about him in particular is just so much
This guy fucking sucks.
Because, you literally have to look at the complaints and the reality that Ubisoft employees are facing and then put out a stupid bullshit statement like that. It goes to make sense why Sony takes the tactic, and Xbox might be doing it as well to be quiet.
He might do it more than anybody else.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like I've read 12 of the exact same statement from him over the last 5 years that we've been doing this goddamn podcast.
The average French man is pretty soulless anyway, and then you put billionaire into it.
Hold on, these are my people you're talking
about.
Oh,
you're American now, buddy.
And soulless, excuse you, art comes from France.
You're right. Soulless.
And I'll
soulless
also
in the
have
literal sense. No, in the literal sense is they have no soul. Like, you can still appreciate art, I think, with no soul. It's just you're going to an oblivion state after you die because you're not like the rest of us. You're like, wow. Not French women, by the way. It's different. French women, the angels. Angels on Earth.
I'll also remind you, the French are the most successful revolutionaries in history.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are.
They just paved the way for more tyrants with the French Revolution.
But
another one. Frankly, one that's kind of worse.
But after that, they drug motherfuckers out from their homes and cut their heads off in front of their children. And then guess what? The French people and the French government get along fairly well right now. And when they don't, cars get flipped, buildings get burnt down, and then the government listens.
Hey, that's now. I'm talking about revolutions.
You're talking about a revolution which failed.
That's the revolution. That's next to the American Revolution, the two-pillared revolutions.
Why did it fail, Connor?
What?
Because America was sitting on their hands because they fucking suck.
Well, no, the whole thing is that we sat on our hands. If we didn't sit on our hands, we would have helped the king.
We sat our hands.
No, but that's the thing. We would have helped the king because they were the ones who were supporting us. The French, back when they were supporting our revolution, was the one that was being overthrown. So it'd be kind of weird if we were let's help them overthrow.
We had a thing of, do we support the French revolutionaries or not? And Washington dropped a statement of neutrality. Yeah, but he should not have done because the French helped us secure our independence from Britain.
Well, then if we were going to take a side, it would have been against the revolutionaries because they weren't the ones who Helped us.
Not with Thomas Jefferson in Congress.
Maybe not. I mean,
like that was the whole. Jefferson had a great relationship with the French and kept hanging out over there. That was one of the biggest critiques you could have at Jefferson at the time.
But again, that was the French as they were then, not in the current regime that would then be overthrown.
Listen, France has a history. Like the guillotine is French for a reason.
It is, but again, they just killed a lot of innocent people with that, and then it paved the way for Napoleon, who was far worse than Louis ever was, because he plunged an entire continent into war and Russia.
Yeah, but they also drugged their government officials out from their homes and cut their heads off in front of their children.
That's good. It was also government officials that were pushing for that as well. Like Robespierre.
Yeah, but then it happened to them.
Yeah, some of them.
I mean, I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about the people.
Yeah, but the people were also killed if they even said, hey, I don't think this is all good. We're killing people.
Which is why they started killing back. Should probably...
Wait, what?
We should probably take some notes.
Oh, well, yeah, but they killed each other, so there was just like...
Streets.
It was a mess after that. And then, again...
We're on a tangent.
I know we are. I know, I love history.
Listen.
We do a history podcast.
All right, so we've got more Assassin's Creed in the...
Why are we still talking about this? This is more Assassin's Creed.
We got to do our Connor. We got to do our jobs here. We got to do our jobs.
We can't do our job if it's just the dumbest fucking face plant from a company, but they love getting face planted.
Can I get the topic out?
Yeah.
We have a topic to cover, Connor. We haven't covered all the topics
You have to
yet.
get angry to cover up for the fact this story is stupid.
No, it's stupid. I mean, I've been said I don't want to talk about Ubisoft anymore. We got Assassin's Creed titles in the pocket. We got at least 2 Far Cries in the pocket, multiplayer and single player. Let's start with Far Cry because that seems the most solid right now, and it's also been the longest since we've had a Far Cry game.
Been what?
Far Cry 6 was a while ago.
It was.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a good thing. Forget about it. Let's forget about what that game's become.
I think it's pretty easy to probably say we're probably getting a Far Cry remake. I remember there being Far Cry 3 remake was in the conversations at one point. I think a 2 remake would also be good, or just the first game remade. Who knows? You know, I think a remake is clearly one of those titles. And then a new Far Cry game. Is it a Far Cry 7? For some reason, I don't think so. I think it's probably a Far Cry live service of some kind.
I can believe that.
You know, grind, build out your gear, level up. Much like a Destiny or Division clone of some kind, but Far Cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Really what Ubisoft does...
Or maybe...
The fact is that Ubisoft, because they split it into these creative houses, how they're going to proceed from here on out is unknown. Because the only creative house they've given a name to, as they mentioned it here, was Vantage Studios.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are in control.
Which is coincidentally in charge of their most successful IP.
Yes.
I wonder why.
As you said, they might be selling off the other creative houses, making nice little packages. We'll see.
So yeah, I kind of feel like maybe almost like in the way, I mean, it might be like a Far Cry extraction shooter or something. Like I could just totally see like them being like, you got to go in and grind and kill 30 pigs to get their skins to get a new bandolier or something.
Wow, seems fun.
When's the last time you had fun with a Ubisoft game? Pretty recently. Prince of Persia was great.
And then
anyways, Assassin's Creed, more of them. Another one. Sure.
We're never not.
Shadows sold well. They're probably going to do another one. It's probably going to be smaller in scope because Shadows was expensive to make.
Make things smaller.
Maybe they're bringing Assassin's Creed multiplayer back. I don't know.
I've heard people talk about, like, hey, I remember when was the one that had the multiplayer? 4. People were like, 4, 3, Revelations.
Brotherhood, Revelations.
Brotherhood had a multiplayer?
Yeah, that's where it started.
Oh, I thought it was Revelations.
No, it started in Brotherhood. Yeah, Brotherhood and Revelations. Assassin's Creed 3 had a multiplayer, and Black Flag was the last one that we saw that in because then they did co-op with Unity, and that was a failure.
People fondly remember those games. Maybe they weren't as good as they are in their minds, but that could be a jumping-off point of, hey, remember these games that you think were good? Well, here they are in modern format.
We know about that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag remake.
Yep.
We know it's coming, and we know it's going to be more like the Odyssey formula than it was the OG formula. Let's see if that works out for them. So, I don't know. We'll see. I've got no faith in Ubisoft. I've got really no interest in Ubisoft anymore. Like I'm cool. I don't need that. Even though I would be interested in playing the Black Flag remake. Sometimes you gotta make personal sacrifices, you know. You know,
and wallet safety, wallet cuts.
Man. That's one of them. Rest
wallet
in peace,
cuts.
Prince of Persia.
That's a wallet.
Rest in peace, Splinter Cell.
Bye.
Allegedly, Beyond Good and Evil 2 is still in the thing. That's got to be a Ponzi scheme.
Oh, it's there, dude.
There's something going on.
You'll
there.
see.
Yeah,
you're gonna put your foot in your mouth when that comes out in this console generation.
Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Yep.
That game will never come out. I said it when they re-announced
I
it.
know.
I said it. I was like, that game's never coming out.
I'm saying you're going to put your foot in your mouth. You'll see.
I mean, a decade later, I'm still proven to be right, Connor.
You were proven to be wrong in the sense you didn't think this game was even alive anymore at one point.
I still don't think it's alive. I think
they
they're
said it
just
was.
saying it is.
They said, hey, it is. And this was a guy in himself coming out, not with Ubisoft, like releasing information on this. He came on LinkedIn saying, hey, guys, we're still doing it. We're still there.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We will see.
They got two guys in a corner just sketching ideas of what they could put that fucking pig
So
in.
it's not dead.
No, it's dead.
Doesn't sound like what you
Listen,
just described as dead.
I mean, being brain dead, Connor, is pretty much equivalent to being dead. You may as well just pull the fucking plug.
So those two people writing in that room
Are
had
the
their brains turned
equivalency
off?
of video game development brain deadness? Yes.
I think they're alive. They're doing some pretty good work.
Pretty pro-life of you, Connor.
Oh, I love being pro-life. My favorite part is controlling women's bodies. I very much enjoy that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has been your newest episode of the Two Penny Gamescast. Fuck.
True.
Make sure you like, subscribe, follow for more. Put your comments down in the comment section down below to get your 2 pennies read on next week's episode. Give us your input on how you feel about all the stories that we talked about today. There's a lot to talk about, so make sure you do that. And until next time, have a great time. Connor, say goodbye to the people.
I'll try and have a great time.
You can have a good time.
I'll try.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I always try.
All right.